What is up? Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kierre, and this is Jason. And today we are back continuing our top 10 series. So are finally on our top 10 films of 2016. So this will be our first part of that series, which is our number 10 through number 6. And then obviously we do a second part where we do our number 5 through number 1. And this is your first time joining us. I say this almost every show. We basically started this from back when Jason and I first met and became friends back in like 2000. And I'm sorry, not 2000, but 1995. And we've been basically progressing forward through the years. And now we're on 2016. And, at this point, we don't have that many more years to go seriously. We've got 2016, 2017, and 2018, and then we're good. So we might finish this up by the summer, man.
Yeah, it's been a long road. That's for sure.
It's taken us a year and a half, but we're getting right on through it, man. We're getting right on through it.
I remember you started saying that we were, making real progress around like 2003 or something like that. And I was like, I don't know, man. That's like a lot of years left to go.
That was like last October or something.
Yeah. Hey, man, we're really making progress. Already 2003. That leaves 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's all.
Yeah. And if you're the first time joining us, the only reason why I say that we only have to go to 2018 because we've already done our 2019 and our 2020. So once we're done with those, we'll figure out something else to do, but obviously we'll continue doing our top 10 for any current films that are coming out. So, or any current years. So like a 2021 top 10, that sort of thing. So
it is pretty impressive. I mean, it is, because if you think about it, by the end of doing this, we will have each talked about, like 250 movies, you know what I mean? By the end of this thing. Each of us. Yeah. So that's like 500 movies. I mean, we had crossovers, obviously.
Yeah, there were the same, like last year's 2015, we both had the same number 1. So there are some crossover years with that, or crossover films with that. But for the most part, we're still talking about the film. So it's quite a few.
We're talking about a lot of movies.
And then not even including our honorable mentions or our challenge films also.
Oh,
so
God.
That's even more films as well. Which... I say we kind of get into right now. So each year that we start the year, Jason and I usually the previous year actually. So 2015, we'll challenge each other to a film for the upcoming year, which would be 2016 that Jason has seen that I haven't seen, and he'll challenge me to a film that or I'll challenge him to a film that I've seen and he hasn't seen, and then we'll kind of compare how those films went for each of us.
I will say that I don't think it has happened yet. It could still, but it hasn't happened to where that has affected our top 10. That hasn't affected anyone's top 10 yet. But
no.
But we have. I know you've recommended some movies that I really liked. So
and likewise, same. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some movies that I would say probably would get bumped up some of my honorable mentions at the very least. But it's kind of hard, especially for films that came out. That we challenged each other to that came out like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, because I don't know, those top 10s are kind of set in stone, and I don't know on a first viewing if I could immediately bump any of them directly into a top 10. I'd probably have to see them at least twice before I'd even could make that determination. Most of those cases, I got a little bit of time pass, you know what I mean? So it would have to just completely just knock my socks off for me to immediately throw it. Like I'd have to be like, that was a 5-star film. Thanks for recommending it. It's definitely in my time. You know what I mean? Like, so, whereas, and generally they're like, the ones I like are like 3 stars or 3.5 stars. So it wouldn't necessarily automatically bump it into my top 10 typically anyway. So, but you never know, maybe, 5 years down the road and, I'm like, I really did love whatever film it was that he recommended for me, the Wolf Pack. It's definitely in my top 10 now.
I've got 2 more chances.
We got 2 more chances. We both have 2 more chances for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I'll go ahead and start this time around. So I'll go ahead and start with my challenge film first, switch it up a bit. So I'll bring mine in. The film that you challenged me to was The Edge of 17, which is, as you alluded to before, is basically a coming-of-age film about a girl who is basically becoming coming of age. She's like 17 years old. She's kind of a little bit of a mess. and there's some reasons for that. She's had some tragedy early in her life that that's affected her. She's she has so it's basically her mom and her brother, and she doesn't have a lot of friends. She's got basically one friend, and her and her brother, but he's not really her friend because he's like super popular and super cool, and she's kind of like, I don't think she's a nerd. I think she's just different. She dresses kind of retro, like 80s, 70s style. Just kind of one of those, like, kind of like the weird kid probably you would call in school. That weird kid that kind of either hangs with himself mostly or just has one other weird kid friend that they hang out with. And that's basically how it is in this film. And so she's always having just some issues or some drama or something of that nature. And she's, of course, Woody Harrelson's also in this film, who plays like a teacher, and de facto guidance counselor for her too, because she's always running to him with like her problems and things of that nature. And it's kind of not the easiest film to describe because it's kind of a comedy, but kind of a drama as well. But the general gist is basically her brother, who she doesn't like, and is, because he's super popular and cool. And then her best friend and brother kind of end up sort of dating, which kind of causes a rift for her. And, basically that's kind of where the story goes from there, because, that's pretty much her only friend, and her brother, who she, thinks has lived like this perfect life and kind of like, I guess she might be a little envious of him, but she also just doesn't like him for various reasons. And now that her best friend is kind of like potentially getting into a relationship with her brother, so it just causes a lot of problems with her. And that's kind of the gist of the film, without going too much into details. So, like I said, it's a coming of age film. But overall, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good film. It was funny in many parts. Good story. Like you said, I think you compared it to what did you compare it to? The
Spectacular Now.
The Spectacular Now, yeah, it kind of has some of that same vein of that. It also kind of reminded me of a few other films that I had seen that were kind of coming of age films that were kind of in that same vein as well. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of this other film that I liked, or this kind of reminds me of another film that I like. But overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I would definitely give this one 3 stars out of 5, and it was a good choice. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I remember liking that movie a lot. I've only seen it the one time, in the theaters, but it's definitely one that I think I should revisit every once in a while, and then I forget again or something. But I just, you and I both are just, we've always been big fans of good teen movies. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I've liked, done right. Yeah, I don't have a problem with them. I've had this conversation though. Of course, as I get older, and you have to bear with me. My allergies have been like killing me today from the wind today. But as I get older, it gets a little bit harder to be like as relatable to them. You know what I mean? The further removed I get from high school, I kind of like, it gets, because now that I have kids that are about that age, you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's a little harder to kind of, understand fully, the dramas and dilemmas they're going to. But if they're done well, they're done well, and you can definitely enjoy it just based on that general principle for sure. So, good choice.
Yeah, and I like ones that have like complex characters. Like I remember thinking this one did. I mean, like all the characters. There's no like 2-dimensional characters in here. Like they're all like, they all have shadings. You know what I mean? And even like
the mom does. Even the mom does. They all have. They're not. Nobody's like inherently bad, but nobody's like inherently good either necessarily. Like, I mean, they're not doing anything terrible maliciously or anything of that nature, but they, like you said, they all have a little bit of roughness around the edges, especially that family, because they've had some tragedy, which kind of probably shattered the family a little bit. So,
yeah, and I also remember really liking Woody Harrelson in there and thinking, I don't remember. If I remember right, he's very blunt, right?
Yeah,
like
things,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember him being like one of the brightest spots in the movie.
Super blunt. There's like this like emotional scene where he's like dropping her off after she just had like kind of a blowout argument with her brother, and so he's like dropping her off at the house, and he's kind of like talking to her. He's like, well, I'm not really good at these kinds of things. This isn't something that I'm good with. I've never had to really do this kind of stuff before in the past, but he's like, I just want to say to you, you got to get out of my car.
Yeah.
So, like, he didn't even like go into anything about that argument or that blowout or anything. Just like, you got to go.
Yeah.
But no, he's really good in there. Very blunt, but very, very good. Very Woody Harrelson-esque, if you will. So
yeah. Cool.
But yeah, good choice for sure.
Thank you. Okay, and you chose for me The Accountant.
Bring that right on in for you.
Yep. And The Accountant is one of those movies that I didn't see when it came out, but I didn't like not want to see it. It just kind of left the theaters before I got a chance, and it's been on my list, not at the top, but not at the bottom ever since. Right. Kind of one of those movies. So it stars Ben Affleck as a kind of a secret assassin, sort of. I don't know what his title would be exactly, but he is also like a math genius and also like autistic. Right. And basically he, what pays the bills, so to speak, is the hits that he does. But he runs also like an accounting firm as kind of a front. And basically he gets hired for an accounting job to kind of find out where the money is leaking from this big company that does like high-tech robotics. And he's hired to basically find out where the money is leaking from. And that kind of kicks off that plot. And the I don't remember her title in the movie, but the person at the company that discovered the leak is played by Anna Kendrick. And it also stars J.K. Simmons as like an FBI agent who's trying to track down this mysterious person who, of course, is actually Ben Affleck. Mm-hmm. So I really, really loved the first like hour of this movie. Like, I thought it was really, really well done. I was ready to tell you that it was like one of the best movies you've recommended for me in this series. And I mean, it's still good. I still liked it. The first half was just gangbusters. I thought just really great action, really intriguing story, intriguing characters. And then the second half, I thought it got a little bit bogged down in the backstory, because he's got a very complicated backstory, childhood with his father and his brother, and that's all good and everything. But to me, it seems like they kind of put the brakes too much on the main story and went back into the backstory a little bit too much. And on top of that, like I thought the entire J.K. Simmons plotline, even though I love J.K. Simmons, I thought that really didn't add anything, really. I mean, it didn't really go anywhere. Of course, he eventually finds Ben Affleck, of course. But I thought, like, if that whole storyline had been chopped, like, the movie wouldn't have lost anything, and it would have been about a half hour shorter, which would have been nice. But yeah, the second half, I just thought it got a little bit too bogged down in the side stories and the back stories and the parallel J.K. Simmons storyline. When I wished it would have just kept focusing on the main storyline with Ben Affleck and Anna Kendrick and John Lithgow and all that. Also, there was a twist at the end involving his brother that I didn't quite find believable, but that's neither here nor there. All in all, it was an enjoyable.
Referring to, yeah, for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, it was pushing it a little bit, the credibility wise, but it's fine. I like that. I almost spilled the beans on something, but I'm not going to say. But anyway, I liked it overall. I wish it had been kept up at the speed of the first hour, but I still enjoyed it. So I would give it, like you, 3 out of 5.
Cool.
So it was an enjoyable movie. I probably would have seen it eventually. I'm glad I saw it now, and thank you for the recommendation. So 3 out of 5.
Sure. Yeah. It's one that I like. It's not top 10, and that's the other thing. A lot of the ones that we recommend aren't necessarily in our top 10s either. On our own top 10s are just usually like really good films, because chances are we've seen each other's films are in the top 10, or they're films that we didn't think the other person might like as much, so we didn't recommend it, kind of situation. So cool. Well, glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, overall, so cool. Perfect.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into those real top 10s for you. So I'll start with the number 10. I'll bring mine in real quick. And my number 10, I went back and forth on this one as well. I know you said 2016 was kind of a tough year. Yeah, I had to go through and like reshift and reshuffle my top 10 just based on memory and thought. Some of these films I hadn't seen in a few years, so I'm just kind of going off of recent memory kind of thing. But hopefully, this list sticks. But, of course, there was like 10 honorable mentions that I'll probably name part of those in my next show. Where any one of those, if I still again, maybe they get bumped up and one of these other ones get bumped down. So you just never know. But starting off my number 10, I went with The Nice Guys, which is basically an action comedy. Stars a Russell Crowe and a what's his name?
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling. So they're basically, it's set like in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's set in the 70s. And basically they are, Ryan Gosling's like a private investigator or PI. And Russell Crowe's kind of more of like I don't know what he is, like a hitman? No, he's not a hitman. He's like I don't know. They both do kind of like the similar things. They're both kind of like investigators, basically. But it's kind of weird. And they're basically kind of investigating a potential murder. That's like they both have two different kind of cases that they're kind of working, and they're both kind of investigating those cases. But they find out that there might be some parallels between their two cases, and so even though they don't really like each other very much, they end up like kind of teaming up together. So it becomes kind of like a buddy cop comedy in a way, even though neither of them are really cops, basically. But it's funny. It's got great dialogue. It's got obviously really good acting. And I don't know. Like I said, just one that I overall really enjoy. I saw it again, I don't know, sometime in the last year or so. But it still holds up pretty well for me as well. And then obviously, this one's also directed by Shane Black, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's got Shane Black directed it, and most of his films are usually really, really good as well. So it's got that same kind of style. So if you know Shane Black's type of films, and then you kind of get a picture of kind of what this is, what this film might be about with the action comedy, because he mixes action comedy quite well. So that is my number 10, The Nice Guys.
Yeah, I love The Nice Guys. This was a hard year for me because there were a lot of really great movies that. In a lesser year would make my top 10, but I just couldn't squeeze them in this time. And The Nice Guys is definitely one. That's one I look back on, and I think that's one of my favorite movies of that year. But yet it didn't quite make the top 10. But yeah, I love it. It's really funny. It's just a really fun movie. And I am for the most part a pretty big Shane Black fan. So it does, like, I watched The Last Boy Scout again recently for the first time since I think it was in the theaters, and it really made me realize, like, he definitely, a long time ago. Yeah, he definitely does have his tropes. You know what I mean? Like, there's always like a character who's a private eye. Like, he didn't direct all these, but he wrote the screenplays for all of them. But like, you got like Lethal Weapon, you got The Long Kiss Goodnight, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Last Boy Scout, Nice Guys. They're always like, there's a private eye or a cop or both. There's like a mystery. Mm-hmm. There's usually like a murdered woman. There's usually like some crazy over the top car accidents. A car is either going into a lake or off the side of a mountain or into the side of a truck and exploding. But and usually it's Christmas.
Yeah, it's always like a sprinkle of Christmas in there somewhere.
Yeah, at least a sprinkle or through the whole movie. In the case of Lethal Weapon or Long Kiss Goodnight. Anyway, I'm a Shane Black fan for the most part, and this is one of my favorites of his. I love it. Yeah, so good choice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Moving right along to your number 10. I'll bring that in, and that is going to be Pop Star, Never Stop Stopping.
No, Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Oh, yeah, Never Stop, Never Stop, Never Stopping, yeah.
So this is a perfect example. I shuffled my top 10 from that year quite a bit also, because I already had one done, but I took another look at it today. This is a perfect example of a movie that I would not have put in my top 10 in 2016 because I probably didn't feel, important enough or something, But it's absolutely one of the ones that I look back with at the most fondly, and it's definitely one that I've watched the most times since then. And it's the kind of movie that I can put on anytime. It's definitely one of my favorite comedies. So I love, when it comes to comedies, I love mock documentaries. And among mock documentaries, I especially love mock documentaries about like musicians or music. Because as you know, I'm as obsessive about music as I am about movies, if not more so. So it's like kind of two of my favorite things together. So, like Spinal Tap is, of course, like the granddaddy of all of those kind of movies, and probably always will be. But Walk Hard is another really good one. A Mighty Wind is really good. And this is another really good one, about a fictional pop star played by Andy Samberg called, his name is Connor For Real, with the number 4 instead of the word 4. And it's just like a really funny movie. It's a really good satire of the current music, kind of the current music scene. Current as of 2016.
Well, I would say especially around that time, yeah, with the boy bands and things of that nature that were kind of, same parallel to think of like an NSYNC type group where, Justin Timberlake kind of branches off to become like the main star and that kind of stuff, and what happens to those other guys that, kind of get left behind a little bit. So
yeah, like he's kind of like the Justin Timberlake who went solo and kind of tries to put like a harder edge on things now,
right.
But it's hilarious. I like it more every time I watch it. Makes me laugh more every time I watch it, which is important for a comedy. I'm a big Andy Samberg fan. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, all the stuff, Hot Rod. I just like the guy. And the rest of the cast is really good. It's got Maya Rudolph in it, Joan Cusack, Tim Meadows, a lot of really funny people, and a lot of really great cameos by musicians playing themselves, which is also a good thing to throw into these movies. But yeah, it's a perfect example of a movie that I would not have put in my top 10 because it didn't feel important enough at the time. But now looking back, it's like, definitely one of my favorites of that year for sure. I could watch it right now, easy. So yeah, that's my number 10.
Cool. Yeah, I just recently rewatched this one, probably earlier this year, maybe in February or something like that. Yeah, it is pretty funny. It doesn't quite make my top 10 or anything of that nature, but it is a fun, good comedy for sure. So
yeah.
Definitely one that it gets a little silly in some parts, but I definitely like it quite a bit. So
yeah,
but cool.
Yeah.
Great choice.
So, thank you.
All right. Moving right along to my number 9. I'll bring that in. And my number 9 is going to be Founder, which stars Michael Keaton, which is basically the McDonald's story, if you will. So basically he plays basically the founder of McDonald's, and I can't think of his name, like Stone or something. I can't remember his name now. I have to look that up. I can't remember what the founder's name was anymore. So basically it's the story of how, McDonald's came to be like this big chain. And I wasn't aware of, how McDonald's came about. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't even aware of who, the owner of the company was, like Wendy's is easy because it's Dave, and Wendy is his daughter. You know what I mean? They were in the commercials always, and you know what I mean. And same with like some of the other the Colonel with KFC, stuff like that. You know what I mean? I never knew a whole lot about the McDonald's industry and how it came about. And so this is his story, basically, how he became essentially the founder of a franchise that was basically already in business. So it's a very interesting tale that I had never knew anything about it. Like he just kind of on a whim came into like one of their restaurants. He was like he sold like mixers for like ice cream machines or like a milkshake machines, and he was basically delivering one of his products to McDonald's, I think out in California, I believe. And basically was like, oh wow, this is really cool, and ended up like kind of like opening up a franchise, and then basically started getting into like a tiff with the original owners of the McDonald's, and their actual last name was McDonald, so they were the actual owners, whereas of course his name's not. So he even like kept the name, because I forget what his name was in the film, but it's like some name that just he was like it's like Krusty or
I can't remember.
Crank or something weird about his name that just didn't sound like a it didn't sound like a like I just don't see everybody going to like Crank's burgers or something. like that. You know what I mean? But it's just like a really, really good story. He's great in there. It's got a lot of good humor. It's got a pretty good cast as well. So really good acting. And like I said, and it's just interesting. It's like the kind of film that almost could have played like a doc. They could have did almost a documentary on this story, but it just plays as like a almost like a biopic, but not for like music. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's just a really, really good, crazy story, and it definitely gives you kind of like an inside look into how corporations are kind of like taken over by people that you let in, basically, that you think are helping you to grow the company, and then at some point they end up basically kind of taking over your company. And so I definitely recommend it, but just a really, really good story. So that is my number 9 film, Founder.
Yeah, I remember liking that movie quite a bit. I haven't seen it since then, like a lot of these, but I remember I went to see that with my mom and really enjoyed it. And again, like you, I didn't really know much of that story.
Right.
Yeah, and Michael Keaton, I always like Michael Keaton in anything, just about.
Yeah.
And yeah, and if I remember right, John Carroll Lynch is in there too as one of the two brothers, and he's one of my favorite like kind of character actors that you might not know his name, but you recognize him.
Yeah. Like I couldn't remember his name off the top of my head, but as soon as you said it, I knew exactly who he is. That kind of person. So yeah,
right,
sure.
Right, yeah. And the funny thing is, though, I know that movie is supposed to, make you kind of cast a critical eye on the history of McDonald's and all that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of funny how a movie like that, and also Super Size Me. You remember when Super Size Me came out? Like, they're both really good movies, and justifiably critical of McDonald's, but both of them just kind of made me want to go to McDonald's after.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure.
I was like, man, they got good fries.
Well, I mean, and this one, it was more about him like just being kind of a jerk in the way he pursued the company, but Super Size Me, especially because of the way that they really went into the obesity and that kind of stuff with it. But I do know a lot of people, including myself, when I rewatched it again, that they complained about like the Super Size Me, because like he went like the first day he went to go get like, I don't know what it was, like a Big Mac and like a large fry, and then immediately went to the parking lot and was like throwing up his brains out. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people were like, well, this guy was kind of the wrong guy to even do this with, because this guy clearly never even really ate McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like to go and as soon as you get done eating, you're like throwing up. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he had like this enormously giant meal or anything like that, but so there were some people that are like kind of critical of him doing it as well. They thought maybe he wasn't the right choice for it, because he wasn't, he didn't really eat there to begin with. So
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that movie in a really long time. In my memory, I think it was like a week or two of nothing but McDonald's before he was like puking. But I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah.
Anyway,
I thought it was pretty early into the doc that he was doing that, but I don't remember. But yeah.
I remember though, as much as I took its message to heart and everything, I remember the day I saw Super Size Me, I went and got McDonald's after.
Yeah, I did.
Just because I was like, I had seen
like the Food Inc. and you know what I mean, and like they told you all that stuff about what's in the meat and all that kind of stuff, and at the end of the day, it's not gonna. People are gonna, especially when you don't feel like cooking, you know what I mean? I love to cook, I'm an avid cooker, but I don't want to cook every day, you know what I mean? Like, and when you got a family of 4 or 5 people or whatever you have living with you, you know what I mean? Like you're, and to get everybody to decide on the same thing, that's a challenge in itself, you know what I mean? But everybody loves McDonald's, everybody can get something, or a fast food place, everybody can find something on the menu. If you don't want a burger, well, you got a fish sandwich. You don't want that, you got a chicken sandwich. You don't want that, you got nuggets. You know what I mean? Like, so there's something for almost everybody that does it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why it's convenient for that kind of stuff. So for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I do watch what I eat, and I do try to eat good food, but yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to have those McDonald's fries, man.
Yeah.
They're like
just
crack.
Got to do it. And when I say sometimes, I mean 3-4 times a week. No,
No. For me, it's like road trip food. I love getting McDonald's on road trips, but that's about it. So,
cool.
Anyway,
moving right along to your number 9. I'll bring that in, and it's going to be Pete's Dragon.
Oh man, yeah. Okay. So if there was one movie from this year that I could just convince people to watch because it's not what they think it is, it's this movie. I love this movie, but I can't get anybody to watch it hardly. For one thing, it's directed by David Lowery, who's one of my favorite up and coming directors. He did a movie called A Ghost Story that was really good. He did what is it, The Old Man and the Gun with Robert Redford.
Oh yeah,
he's got that movie. Yeah, he's got that movie. The Green Knight coming out this year. He's a really interesting filmmaker, and this movie, it is so much better than anybody had any right to expect. I loved the original Pete's Dragon growing up, but it's super cheesy and corny, and this movie is not super cheesy and corny. It's just a really, really good, I guess a family movie, but it's definitely got some grittiness to it, and some, like, I don't know, it's got soul. For a movie like this, you don't expect it to have as much feeling as it does. And I really it came out the same year as that Jungle Book movie. And I know a lot of people really like the Jungle Book movie.
I actually like the Jungle Book movie, so yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people did. But I can't help but resent it a little bit because I know that it kind of siphoned off 90% of the money that could have gone to this movie. And I mean, as far as live action Disney remakes go, I just think the Pete's Dragon movie is so much better. It's just got so much more humanity to it, and the entire movie is not in front of a green screen, for one thing. It's actually, real people, real locations, real things. I mean, the dragon's not real, obviously, but at least the whole thing isn't like CGI. So I'm not that I hated the Jungle Book movie. I thought this was so much better. And this made no money, and that movie made like $400 gazillion. So, but anyway, I mean, it's a movie about a boy who finds a dragon. It sounds like your typical family movie. But all I can say is, like, the minute you start it, it's a different kind of movie. It's got so much soul and humanity, and it's so like moving, and it's so well acted, and it's even got good music. It's got a good soundtrack. Like, this guy is good with soundtracks, is what I'll say. Yeah, it's a great movie. Another one that I probably wouldn't have put in my top 10. Well, I know I definitely didn't put it in my top 10 that year, but it's one that I returned to more than ones that were in my top 10. So, yeah, it's definitely one I highly recommend checking out. Anybody who hasn't seen it, whether you're young or old, got kids or don't got kids, it's just a great movie. So, yeah, that's my number 9. Easy.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I definitely love the Jungle Book. Jungle Book was actually originally in my top 10, but I ended up sliding it down because I haven't seen it in many years, and I kind of wanted to. And I've seen some of these other movies more recently, so I kind of bumped it down just based on that. But I really love the Jungle Book, so so I can't really argue one way or another because I haven't seen Pete's Dragon. But I personally, I'm in the camp of that really love the Jungle Book and definitely feel it earned every dollar that it got. So I thought it was good. So. I thought it was definitely one of the better animated films of in the last 5 or 6 years. So, but to each their own. And who knows? Maybe someday I'll see Pete's Dragon, but probably not today. So,
well, it was almost the one that it was almost the one I gave you as a challenge movie for that year. But I had a lot to choose from. So,
yeah,
cool. It's good though. You should give it a shot sometime.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Well, moving on from one animated feature to the next, my number 8 is going to be Zootopia. So I like this one quite a bit as well. Like I said, I thought it was a pretty decent year for animated films in that regard, I guess. I know there's a few more in my honorable mentions, I believe, but yeah, I like Zootopia quite a bit. I just thought it was a really, really good story. I like that, that it had some scary moments to it as well, and it was funny. I just really enjoyed it. I saw it twice once in the theaters with my son, and then I ended up buying it on DVD and watching it again at home. And I don't know, it's just a really, really good story. I mean, almost everybody's seen Zootopia, and that one again made a gazillion dollars also at the box office. So, which might have also stolen, I guess, some of the revenue from Pete's Dragon, I guess. I don't know. So it's also Disney. So, so I don't know. But yeah, Zootopia was another really, really big hit that that I really liked. Most people know the story about, was she a rabbit? I think a rabbit.
So?
Yeah,
think
rabbit
so.
that like goes away, lives in like the small town, and goes to like the big city to start like kind of a new life, and ends up finding that there's some corruption type things going on in the new city, and people are like kind of like disappearing and things of that nature. So, but just a really, really good fun film. Definitely, like I said, one of the better animated films that I've seen of the last 5 years or so. So that is my number 8, Zootopia.
Yeah, that's one I definitely saw it when it came out. I don't really remember a whole lot about it. It's kind of one of those like say, I don't know, The Secret Life of Pets for me, which I remember going to, I remember enjoying, but I don't remember much else about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was the other one that kind of probably is in my honorable mentions as well. So, like I said, I like both of those films. I thought they were really, really good, and another one that you probably could argue stole money away from.
well,
So,
I don't know, man.
I
don't remember.
Like talking about being resentful of I'm like, well, all those films were pretty big except for Pete's Dragon. So
Yeah. And to me, I would say that was easily the best one. But I don't know. I don't remember what times of the year those other ones came out, but I just remember I think Pete's Dragon and The Jungle Book came out kind of close to one another. Maybe
okay.
that's why I connect them in my brain.
Yeah, I don't know. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, Zootopia was fine. I think I remember having some misgivings about, because it's one of those movies that has like a message to it, and there were some things about the message that I didn't think quite added up, but I don't remember what it was because it was like 5 years ago. But it was funny. The animation's good, all that. So yeah, cool.
Yeah. All right. Moving right along to your number 8. Down, and that is going to be Midnight Special.
Yeah, so this is a movie by another one of my favorite kind of up and coming directors named Jeff Nichols. He hasn't put anything out in a while, and I don't know why. He must be working on other things, but he's done several movies that I really liked. He started with a movie called Shotgun Stories, which I really liked. He moved on to Take Shelter, which I liked even more. Mud, which I liked even more, I think. And so he made all these movies pretty close together, just a few years apart. And then when I heard his next movie was going to be like a low budget John Carpenter style science fiction movie, I was really, really interested because it didn't sound like his kind of thing, because he always made movies that were kind of realistic, I guess you could say. So that turned out to be this movie, which is starring, what's his name? Michael Shannon, who's in pretty much every one of his movies, just about, as the father to a boy who is, it's been a while since I watched it, but it's kind of a movie much like Starman, speaking of John Carpenter, or Firestarter, in which it's a movie about a single dad who is trying to protect. Well, no, Starman's not like that, but Firestarter definitely is. Like a single dad whose child has special powers, and is being sought after by, bad, authority members, for various reasons. And much like I like those movies, I really like this one. And yeah, it's just it's a cool kind of low budget. I love movies that have large, like lofty science fiction premises, but they do it in kind of a grounded, realistic, medium budget kind of way. It's not all CGI all over the place or anything like that. But it's just a really, really interesting movie. It's got some suspense. It's got some action. It's got a really good cast. Of course, Michael Shannon. You got Adam Driver in there. Kirsten Dunst. It is pretty unpredictable. It winds up in a place that I didn't expect it to wind up. And it's one of those movies that I can testify gets better every time you watch it. I know I watched it 3 times pretty close together back in that year. I haven't watched it since, but I watched it 3 times, and every time I bumped the rating up a notch, so, or half a star, I would say. But yeah, it's a really cool movie. It's definitely one that I need to revisit. So yeah, Midnight Special.
All right. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that, and I'm not probably the biggest fan of that director. I mean, I liked Mud a lot, but I didn't like Take Shelter either. So, but I definitely would favor Mud over the latter 2 of those films. But to each their own. I know you really enjoyed this one quite a bit, but just didn't do anything great for me personally. So,
yeah.
So. This wasn't for me. So, but we all have our favorites and our not favorites. So yeah. And that's not my favorite.
Well, it's not my favorite either. It's my 8th favorite.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Well, it's not even going to make my honorable mentions. So
no.
That tells you where it's at for me.
You need to do something about those.
150 honorable mentions, then it's definitely going to be in there.
You need to do something about your honorable mentions then, that's all I got to say.
All right, moving on to my number 7. I'll bring that in. My number 7 is going to be Everybody Wants Some, which is a really, really good film. I always think of it because it's Richard Linklater. So I always think of it as the because it's set in the 70s.
Yeah, early 80s maybe.
Earlier 80s. I always think of it as it kind of reminds me of the college version of Dazed and Confused. So yeah. So it's like the college version of Dazed and Confused. That's the best way to describe it. So basically it's like these baseball players that are all living at this college, living in their dorm or whatever case may be, and it's basically kind of like them going out and getting into trouble and meeting girls and trying to hook up with girls, and then also they're playing baseball as well. So it's not one of those movies where in a lot of his movies there's not really a lot of conflict in a lot of his movies. That's kind of his thing, and a lot of his films where there's not a major bad guy or a major plot to where it's leading to some sort of big time conclusion or something of that nature. It's just a really good kind of good dialogue, good story. You kind of follow along with, and it's funny in a lot of ways. It's also very funny. It's part comedy as well. So it's got really, really just good dialogue about that college experience. If you're in the late 70s, early 80s, whatever case may be, just kind of what it's like to be in college with all these young guys and some older guys and some much older guys, and and so there's a lot of good elements to it. But like I said, that's the thing about a lot of Richard Linklater's films is like I said, a lot of them they don't have if you're describing them, there's a lot of times not this huge plot point sometimes where you can just pinpoint exactly what they're trying to do or what they're trying to accomplish, because that's pretty much the gist of the film. Is they're college baseball players. And it's basically just kind of all their story about being most of them, a lot of them were freshmen, some of them are sophomores, but it's just kind of their story, playing on the baseball team and like I said, just going out kind of meeting with girls. I hate to make it so simplistic, but that's kind of the overall gist of what the film is. But it's a really, really good, just fun story, and like I said, it's really funny, and the one that I definitely love. So that is my number 7. Everybody Wants Some.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a huge Linklater fan. Huge Linklater fan. And yeah, this was kind of billed, I remember, as being kind of a, quote unquote spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused, right, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I don't know. I saw it in the theater. I liked it. I just kind of forgot about it. I don't know why. I mean, maybe my expectations were too high because, he is one of my favorite filmmakers, and Dazed and Confused is one of my favorite movies of all time. And maybe the fact that it didn't knock me over the first time, I never went back. And not that I wouldn't go back, and I probably should go back, but I don't remember anything specific about it really, except that I had a good time, but that I must have not loved it as much as his other movies, because all his other good movies, which are most of them, I've watched many, many times, and I never went back to that one, and I just kind of forgot about it. So I should definitely go check it out again. Probably. Yeah.
Probably so.
Yeah. Let me borrow it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do own it. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, next time we hang out in 2022, we can we can do that. We can do that.
Yeah, I gotta get my my gas mask out of dry cleaning before I come over.
Yeah.
No.
Cool. All right. Well, moving on to your number 7, I'll bring that in for you, and it's going to be "I Am Not Your Negro."
Yeah. So this is definitely a little heavier than the other movies. It seems like my movies are getting progressively heavier since I started with Pop Star after all.
Right.
But yeah, this is a documentary. It's about it's kind of about James Baldwin, the famous activist and author. But it's also not. It's one of my favorite types of documentaries in that it's not like I love documentaries. Horror and documentary are pretty much my favorite genres. I'll watch any of them pretty much. But it's not one of those linear documentaries where James Baldwin was born on this day and this is what he did and this is it's not like that kind of movie at all. It's more of a collage type documentary with it doesn't have it's not just like talking heads with film clips. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a stream of film clips that express a theme. The theme in this case being racism in America, of course, and narrated by James Baldwin's writings, actually from an unfinished book that he started and never finished. Well, obviously, but and it's his writing is read aloud by Samuel L. Jackson, and it is just like it's hard to describe because it's not a linear documentary, and it is kind of a experimental collage type film, but it is like absolutely gut-wrenching. It's an amazing movie. I think it should be shown in every high school across the country, and it's just like it's not the easiest movie to sell to somebody because it's probably going to make you sad. It's probably going to make you really mad, but it is going to make you feel like you just experienced something you'll never forget, pretty much. So it's a movie that I haven't gone back to since 2016, but I wouldn't be opposed to going back to it. I think it's a movie that could stand being watched every few years, honestly. And I think it's on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure, so I probably could watch it without having to pay for it right now. But anyway, it's a great movie, powerful movie, highly recommended. Yeah, that's my number 6. Or wait, 7.
7. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I haven't seen this one. At least not in its entirety. I might have seen like a clip on TV or something, or on the internet or something like that nature. I do remember like very small parts of it, you know what I mean, that were discussed. So I don't know if I just saw something online or whatever, but I haven't actually made the chance or gotten the chance to actually go through and watch it all the way through. One that I may check out someday, but like I said, kind of got to be in the mood for it. So it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I'm just at an age now where it's kind of like, if I'm sitting down to watch and I want to watch something, like I got to be pretty hard up to select something like this. You know what I mean? So, because in a nutshell, I kind of already know where this film is going to go. You know what I mean? I already kind of know what he went through, and growing up during the civil rights movement and all the stuff he had to endure. I mean, I kind of know that story because I've seen enough films and shows and documentaries about that subject. And I'm not saying that his take is not different or whatever case may be from those ones, but I think we all kind of get the general sense of what he might have experienced and what he might have lived through just based on what I've heard about his life and that kind of stuff. So, so I don't know. It's one that I'll probably get around to someday, but it's not one that I'm rushing out to see. And yeah, I mean, these types of films, I always agree whenever I see one of them and they're really good and really powerful. I always say the same thing. Like, these are the kinds of films that they should be showing in high school. But, based on what some of these states are doing now, you may not even get an opportunity to watch any of these kinds of films in high schools because they sound like they're trying to remove anything that deals with controversial subject matter in schools. The what is it, the critical race theory or whatever. They're trying to like do away with that kind of stuff. Basically, I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's like some new thing that they want taught in schools. And there's basically like certain parts of the country that are trying to like abolish that type of stuff and don't want teachers to be discussing anything that has to do with anything that might be perceived as controversial or anything that might have to do with, race relations or anything of that nature. So I hear what you're saying. I just don't know if it's, we're kind of moving the opposite direction of that kind of stuff right now. Seems like so. Yeah. But another subject for another day. So, but I'll probably check it out at some point. I just got to be in the right mood for these types of films, and a lot of times I'm just not. If I didn't see it when it first came out, it's just kind of hard for me to want to go back and watch something that I know is not going to be fun, and I don't need to necessarily be fun, but I kind of described, I prefer movies, and I know you're a big documentary guy, and I like documentaries, but I just don't get into like the gut-wrenching ones as much. Not saying that this one's going to be the worst gut-wrenching one that I've ever seen or anything, but I just, when I'm wanting to watch something, movies are kind of an escapism for me, so and that's the problem with these types of really heavy type films or heavy type documentaries is, it's just a more of a reminder of the things that we're kind of still going through today kind of situation. So it's kind of hard for me to get amped up to watch that when I'm, seeing police brutality still taking place today. I'm seeing unarmed people getting shot and killed in the streets, so, these are more a reminder of, well, maybe that things were even worse back then, I guess, but it's still just that constant reminder that I'm basically seeing on the news cycle almost every other day. So it's, like I said, it's really hard to want to go back and revisit those types of films just based on we're still kind of living through some of these times right now. So my overall take though. But I'm sure it's a fine documentary, and I'm sure it's great, and I'm sure it's powerful in the movie. I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that I'll gain some value from it, and that I would at least enjoy it on its merit of what it's trying to present to us. You know what I mean? So. That's the other thing. Those films, like you enjoy them, but you enjoy them because of the lesson that it's teaching. You're not enjoying it like this is a really fun movie. Let's get the popcorn going. Let's No.
It's more like fulfilling.
Yeah, for sure.
Enlightening. Yeah,
for sure.
That kind of thing. I know what you mean. You got to be in the right mood for it.
Yeah.
To go there.
Yeah, that's the only thing. And I don't know, it's like if they come out and they're current and they're coming out right now, then maybe. But if I missed it that year, it's definitely harder for me to get jazzed up to go back and watch something that's 5-6 years old that I know is not going to be the most fun film to watch. It's just you definitely got to be in the mood for it. And like I said, I just rarely ever get in the mood to watch something super heavy. I just rarely get in that mood these days. It's just there's but I'm sure at some point I'll probably catch it. So
cool.
Moving on to my number 6, we're wrapping it up on my end. It's going to be Don't Breathe, which is a really, really good horror movie that I really enjoy. General sense about it is basically these teens decide to they're like, they rob houses, and they find this house that they want to rob of this guy that's, blind. And so they basically, break into his house and try to rob him because he's blind. And they find out that this is not just your everyday average blind person. He's got a little bit of a history, a little bit of a past, and he basically locks them into the house so they can't escape, and basically turns off the lights. So they're all essentially blind. And Don't Breathe is basically, don't make a sound, don't make any noises or anything like that, because even though he can't see, he can hear very, very well. And, is definitely after these kids that are in his house that are broken in. So like I said, it's a horror movie. It's a thriller, but one that I definitely love. And it's kind of like one of those films where, you do have empathy for the kids, you know what I mean? But you also kind of were like, well, they kind of, got what they had coming to them, if you know what I'm saying, because they were breaking into this guy's house. I know some people have issues with the the ending of this film, I guess, if you will. Well, not the very ending, but there's certain things that come to light towards the end of the film, and I've heard people have issues with that. You know, things that the main bad guy or person kind of does towards the end of the film, things that come to light. And you know, I initially had issues with it. I don't have so much issues with it on reviewing it again, but I definitely do know that that's a concern for some people. So I don't recommend it for everybody, because there is some subject matter that takes place towards the end of the film that some people have issues with. But it didn't necessarily bother me, but I can see how some people might have some issues with it. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great thriller and a great horror film for me. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that movie. Again, it's a testament to how strong that year was. That I would easily say that was one of my favorite movies of that year, but it didn't quite make the top 10 for whatever reason. But yeah, I absolutely love it. It's one of those movies that's almost kind of like made for me. It feels like, you know, because it's got so many of my favorite things in it. You know, I love movies where people are trapped in like a central location. It takes place, I think, for the most part, over one night.
for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very much very like tight quarters suspense, and I love that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's really entertaining. It's really suspenseful. It's really creepy. It is like the camera work is really inventive. The music is really inventive. It was directed by the guy who made the Evil Dead remake, which I'm a big fan of. And it's also got the same leading lady, Jane Levy, and she's really cool. I like her a lot. And what else was I gonna say? Yeah, it's got kind of a People Under the Stairs vibe to it, also. You know, so it's just like it pushes a lot of buttons for me. Well, I don't know. That makes it. When you say it pushes a lot of buttons, that means it makes you angry, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah,
so maybe it checks a lot of boxes for me. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So I really love it. It's definitely one. It's the kind of movie that you can just put on anytime, as far as I'm concerned, because it's just really, it's short. It's like 90 minutes, and it just like, it's super entertaining. So yeah,
it's not the kind of movie where you need a lot of time, because it's essentially the bulk of, and it's not shot all in one day. I think that the kids do some things beforehand before it actually gets to that scene, but most of it is basically them in that house for, you know, at least a good hour of the movie, basically. So yeah,
the bulk of it, yeah, for sure, yeah. So yeah, it's definitely my kind of movie. 100% love it. But just like, it was a really strong year. So all I can say is it's just, you know, pretty high in the honorable mentions, though, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, moving on to your number 6. Bring that in.
Oh, yeah.
Which is The Witch.
Oh, speaking, it was a good year for horror movies and documentaries, actually, my two favorite genres. But yeah, The Witch, I love this movie. Love this movie. It is, it's a horror movie, of course. It was fairly popular, so most people probably are pretty familiar with it. It's set in the 1600s, you know, Salem witch trials era, and it's about a family who, you know, are kind of exiled from their community. I can't remember why.
Like the husband did something. I can't remember specifically what he did, though.
Right. They're exiled to the middle of nowhere, and they're super religious, and they're basically being stalked by a witch that lives in the woods. And I just love that kind of creepy, the woods at night with the, you know, the branches crunching, and like that kind of like rural horror vibe I really like. And this movie, to me, it's old-fashioned in a lot of ways that I really like. The music is super creepy. The cinematography is super creepy, and he uses only natural light most of the time, so it has this kind of like, you know, it's definitely a movie about the supernatural in some way, but it's also very kind of gritty and like realistic in a lot of ways too. And it's just super creepy. I mean, that's the highest compliment you can pay to a horror movie, really, is that it's super creepy and scary, and I love it. And it was a really big year for Anya Taylor-Joy, because she is the lead actress in this movie, and she was also the lead actress in Split, which came out the same year. Another really good horror movie that didn't quite make my top 10. But again, it was a good year for horror, a good year for these kinds of movies, but definitely the year that broke her into the mainstream. And yeah, it's just a really good horror movie, really perfect example of my favorite genre. So yeah, it's definitely number 6 for me, The Witch. or if you look at the poster, it's the Vivitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Vivitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, two B's versus the W. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't as big of a fan of this. You already know that. This is one that I think you either showed me or recommended to me or something of that nature. I don't remember. I wouldn't have seen it on my own. So it must have been something that you said was like amazing, and I didn't quite think it was quite as amazing. I thought the pacing was a little slow for my taste. It's one of those movies that I think is more eerie than scary for the most part. There are some visuals towards the end that you can argue were scary, but it's like one of those ones that I feel like is more eerie, if anything. And it does have a very, very slow, kind of methodical pace leading up to something that's supposed to be big. I tend to not favor films like that take a little longer than I need to get going. It's kind of in the same. Well, it's about a witch, also like the Blair Witch Project. You know what I mean? And you love that one as well. That's another one where the pacing's a little slower and it's more implied horror for a good portion of it. But I don't know. Those films, for some reason, they don't move me or scare me in that same kind of way. I'm kind of more just like waiting for something more visually scary to happen, I guess. And I'm not saying that this one doesn't have any of those images or imagery towards the end, but I don't know, like those films and Hereditary, and they're all more ones where they're slower pace, which you like that kind of stuff. I don't kind of love it as much as you do, unfortunately. So Midsummer was another one kind of like that, where it's more slow, kind of building towards something at the end, and it's going to have some sort of dramatic finish, but it just takes so long for it to get there for me that I just can't ever say that I really love those films. But but to each their own. So cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's it. That's a countdown, man.
Yeah.
So,
10 very different movies.
Yeah.
Kind of a cross section
not
of
one crossover so far. There might be some crossovers in our top half, I'm assuming, but
yeah, I think so, probably.
Yeah, there are at least 2, maybe 3, but yeah, definitely a really, really, like I said, really strong year for both of us, but just in different ways. So, and maybe because the year was so strong, that's probably why we have so many differences. On a year where it's not as strong, the best of those films usually kind of everybody knows them. You know what I mean? And it's easy to kind of identify those ones. But in a stronger year, it becomes a little bit more complicated. There's a lot more room for differences of opinion, basically. So, but cool.
Yeah.
Well, that is
quite a cross section of movies.
Yeah,
already.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's all kinds of different horror and comedy and animated and
documentaries.
Yeah. So
science fiction. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what that top half does for us for sure. Well, we're an hour into it, so yeah. So we thank you guys for watching. Let us know down in the comments, have you seen any of the films that we've named thus far? Of course, if none of the films have made your top 10 for 2016, well, like I said, come back for the next show. Maybe it'll appear there, because we do have our top 5s. And then obviously we'll also do our challenge films for 2017, actually. So I don't know when that second show is going to be going to come out. Probably a week after this one, based on what movies are playing right now. So,
which aren't many.
So we may just roll right into the 2017 relatively soon as well. So depending on how things go, but or 2016, the top half, rolling into the challenge films for 2017, I should say. But yeah, we thank you for watching. As always, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification so you don't miss our updates. And we will be back again with another show for you guys again real soon. We thank you for watching and hope you have a great day.